What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new release movie that is set around Christmas time. And I didn't know much about this movie before I went in to go watch it, other than I read a couple of little brief reviews and I saw some critic online put this as one of his favorite movies of the year for like a national magazine. And I hadn't heard anything about this movie at all, but I saw the cast and it was incredibly stacked. And I'm a big fan of Christmas movies. I always enjoy watching Christmas movies this time of year. So I figured I would just jump in, go in as blindly as possible. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Christmas Eve in Miller's Point. Christmas Eve in Miller's Point is directed by Tyler Taormina. A rambunctious extended family descends upon their small Long Island hometown for the holidays where hijinks, generational squabbles, and family traditions ensue. So I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, read a couple of things about it. People really enjoyed it. And this movie, it's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say that I love the movie. I respect it quite a bit, and I think it's going for something very ambitious. And a lot of the times it works really well, and sometimes it doesn't work as well as others. And I'm going to break that down for you a little bit today. So in this movie, you are introduced to a multitude of characters, and there's really no point whatsoever in going through each and every character in this film, because honestly, as far as specific characters are concerned, it doesn't really matter all that much. This movie is about invoking a feeling. So you have all of these family members coming together at this one specific house where the matriarch lives, and everyone is there celebrating Christmas on Christmas Eve. And we get older generations and younger generations, and the entirety of the film is conversations and interactions between the family. And a lot of times they're out of context. We don't necessarily know specifics, but it's all about this family get together on Christmas Eve and kind of invoking that feeling that so many people have around the holidays. So like I said, this movie, if there's one word I would use to describe this movie, it's interesting, and I really respect the director. Even though I don't think the movie is completely successful, I think what he's trying to go for here is incredibly impressive. I will start by saying there's an amazing slew of actors and actresses in this movie that all do a really great job. It takes a lot to bring in that many different people and try to create a dynamic where all of the people feel like they're actually family. And that is the case in this movie. This feels like a real family that has years of lived experience. One of the things that I really liked is there were some scenes where the kids were looking through photographs of the older members of the family, or like watching wedding videos, and like the conversations they have in comparison to the conversations that the older adults were having. It really feels like getting together for a very large get together. For me personally, growing up, I never had really large family get togethers for Christmas. It was always really my immediate family and my grandparents. But for Thanksgiving, my great grandmother always used to have very big get togethers where I saw my cousins and aunts and uncles and everyone. And this film does a really good job invoking that feeling of those family members get together, and how you have people that are from the same family but all are from very different walks of life, possibly live in different parts of the world. And so there are really good moments between people, and then there's some moments where people butt heads and things of that nature. And I enjoyed that about this movie. I feel like it gives a relatively authentic portrait of what it's like meeting with that many different family members around the holidays. This movie is beautifully shot. There's so many great moments of editing and transitional editing that really just make the movie feel kind of dreamlike, or almost like you're reliving a memory. That's something that I really appreciated. There's so many moments that are just kind of out of the blue happen that just make it feel like you're living some kind of dream, or that you're reflecting on a different era or period in your life. And I think that makes a lot of sense, considering this is probably something very personal to this director, but he's also trying to invoke a feeling that every single person can understand, which is getting together with family for the holidays. And so that attention to detail with the cinematography is great. There's also a lot of moments where there's like editing decisions that really attribute to a comedic punchline, which I like too. Some of them don't work as well as others, like they feel very random, but other times I feel like it worked really well. There's one in particular with one of the older women with the family, and her in the little like lift chair that takes her up and down the stairs, that I thought was really well placed, and it made me laugh really hard. And a pretty good good part of the comedy comes from the police officers, which their whole plot arc feels kind of like it's out of the rest of the movie. Like it just doesn't really make any sense how it fits in. They're just kind of there, but I did appreciate it, especially because I love Gregg Turkington. I have been a huge fan of his for a long time. Big fan of On Cinema, so it was cool to see him and Michael Cera, who I think had really great chemistry in the movie. They played off each other really well. A lot of really dry comedy on their end, which they're both relatively used to. So I appreciated that quite a bit about the movie as well. And I think the cinematography complementing those comedic performances worked well too. I really liked the sound design as well. It did a really great job of painting that holiday atmosphere, whether that be through little glimpses of music or just little kind of like sparkly sounds in the background, like things that just give you that feeling of Christmas. And I liked that a lot. And like I said, this movie is not a character study at all whatsoever. You get brief moments where you can understand people from these very small segments that they're given, but this movie is so much more about invoking that feeling of like coming together with your family around the holidays and what all of the different emotions that brings up for people. Because like one of the things I really like is there's a lot of conversation surrounding what's going to happen to the matriarch of the family because her health isn't the greatest, and they're talking about selling her house and all of these different things. And one of the things I find so interesting is the holidays, whether that's Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, whatever, when people come together to spend time with one another, they utilize that time to try to escape the reality of life, whether that be like problems or medical issues or whatever. But just because that holiday shows up doesn't take any of those things away. And so real life can bleed into the holidays. And that's what I really liked about this movie, is that the director was trying to showcase that in a way that felt very realistic to life experience, while also showcasing the joyful moments and the memories that people don't forget. And I liked the balance throughout the film of jumping from scene to scene. And there's certain things that I feel like are a little bit glazed over, and there are certain plot lines that I wish like were focused on a little bit more, but I can see where the director is trying to balance things. And my biggest problem with this movie, that's the whole thing, and sometimes it feels like there's not enough there for it to work completely. There were moments where my attention was a lot less there than in other moments where I just felt like the scene started to get a little bit repetitive, and I was like, okay, I get the point. Give me something new. And that's exactly what I wanted. I feel like whether it be more conflict or more development with specific characters, that I would probably be more invested. I like the idea of going in a very non-conventional approach of like you're having these conversations, but it's not necessarily about the character building, and that works. But I think if you trimmed it off about 20 minutes and made it a little bit more streamlined, it would be effective. And then you have that whole subplot with the police officers, and then you leave the house with the kids for this really long period of time for the movie, and it feels a little bit disjointed in moments. And I understand like with family get-togethers that makes sense, but there isn't really a focal character in the movie. It's like there are people that the movie focuses on, but it's jumping all over the place to where sometimes that cohesiveness doesn't feel like it's there, which is why this movie is really kind of a mixed bag for me. I enjoyed watching it, and I would not deter anyone from watching it because I think there's something here to appreciate, and I think there's elements of it that are really neat. Like this is something I haven't really seen in a Christmas movie before, but I just don't think it's toned up perfectly. I don't think everything cohesively works as well as it possibly could to create an experience that everyone will enjoy. I think a lot of people will be put off. A lot of people will say nothing happens, which obviously happens with art house movies a lot. But I think it's a really neat film that I appreciate that it exists. And I think if any of this sounds interesting to you, you should definitely check it out. So have you seen Christmas Eve and Miller's Point? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really interesting. I liked a lot of the approach about it. I don't think it works completely, but there's enough here to make it a worthwhile watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.